to enable kosher scrolls, those fit for ritual use, to be given an honored place in the Aron Kodesh, and to be read to the congregation at appropriate times, and to display those that were too damaged to be kosher in ways that would honor the memory of the Jewish communities that were destroyed in the maelstrom of the Holocaust. With the revival of the Jewish Museum after the collapse of communism, the files that we had been told were non-existent or destroyed suddenly reappeared. By the end of the 1990s, we were able to get a computerized list of the deportees from Dvor Kralova, all of the names, alphabetically, with the birth dates, the transport numbers, and in some cases, the actual date of their murder. With the new information available, and much of it accessible by computer and transmittable by email, my wife wrote a long monograph about the Jewish community of Dvor Kralova and its fate. And just a few days before we were going to press with the document, we got an answer to what we thought was a throwaway inquiry, something Naomi had thought about at the very last minute, but we were sure would yield no positive results. We asked the people in Prague at the Jewish Museum, were there any children from Dvor Kralova who had participated in the art classes led by Friedel Dicker Brandeis at Terezin? And if so, had they made any drawings? Or had they written any poems, like the ones that appeared in I Never Saw Another Butterfly? And had any of those survived? We sent in the names of and the ages of the children from the list of 111 that we had. And within a day, 2 days I think it was, the answer came back, yes, 3 of the children from Dvor Kralova had made drawings and paintings, and appended, attached to the email, were 16 drawings, the works of Peter Hellman, Mariana Shonova, and Otto Hammerschlag. We clicked them open, and we looked at the work of these 3 children who had been murdered in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Pictures that had probably not been seen from the time they were cataloged in the late 1940s until they were photographed to send to us for the book. We quickly found the money to enlarge the book, and we went to color printing to include these pieces, which gave us an incredible personal sense of connection to the realness, if you will, of the Jews of Dvor Kralova and the horror of their story. Well, in the summer of 2005, we finally traveled to Dvor Kralova with a copy of our monograph to give to the mayor, Jerzy Rein, who made an appointment for us, reserved a parking space for us in front of the city hall, met us with a tie and jacket on, with his wife all dressed up, with a translator and a photographer, and they welcomed us very warmly to City Hall. He asked us for permission to translate the monograph into Czech for use in the public schools, and then, armed with official architectural drawings and city plans of the town, he took us to the site of the synagogue. We walked all of 500 yards from the City Hall to a heavily traveled main road, 4 lanes. On both sides of the highway were grassy, empty lots, 30, 40 feet deep apiece. Here the synagogue stood, said the mayor. The city still owns the land. You know, perhaps we ought to put up a marker of some sort. Wow. 3 years later, we in the municipality succeeded in erecting that monument. A photograph of it is just to the left of the door as you come in. A 10-foot tall Jewish star made of interlocking granite slabs with a dedicatory plaque at its base, crafted by a young local sculptor named Otto Cherny. It was from Otto that we learned that there was one Jewish survivor still in town, and he put us in touch with her. She had been taken, as you learned, from Alan Edelstein as a young child to safety in England and then returned with her parents in 1945. Her father had led the campaign to prevent the demolition of the synagogue, an unsuccessful campaign, of course. We had known about him. We had published some of his letters in the monograph, but she was a revelation to us. And now Eva Noskova became the key person to help us preserve the memory of her vanished Jewish community. Fortunately, Eva speaks a good English, and she became the organizer of the dedication and the mistress of ceremonies at the ceremony of dedication in February 9th, 2008, just last year. Eva and I spoke by phone many times in advance of the event. In one conversation, she told me how apprehensive she was that the monument, which had been put in place in early November 2007, would be defaced or even demolished on the anniversary of Kristallnacht. Instead, when she walked past the monument on the morning of November 10th, she found dozens of memorial candles lit on the horizontal slabs of the star. They had been placed there during the night by people she had no idea about. Shortly after we got home from the dedication, Alan reached me to ask, did I know anything about Temple Emmanuel's Holocaust scroll and Dvor Kralova, the town it came from? Yeah. And now here we are, with greetings and congratulations from Eva Noskova, and from the mayor, the current mayor of the town, Edith Ivankova. In recent years, with the passage of time and the sense that the survivors, those who remember in their very existence, those survivors are dying of illness or old age, a new way of looking at the Holocaust has evolved. Now, the Jewish histories tell personal stories, stories like that of Eva Noskova, or the children of Dvor Kralova, whose drawings have been preserved. Where Anne Frank once stood as the sole personal symbol, now we have the lives and deaths and the might have beens of many, many lives. And we know their names. With this wall that you are dedicating tonight, Temple Emmanuel's congregation has reconnected Dvor Kralova's Torah with the individuals who were the Jewish community. This Torah scroll of yours represents this challenge. It says, remember the past and care for the future in my light. As trustees of the scroll, as spiritual heirs of the men, women, and children of Dvor Kralova Nadlaba, that Jewish community that is lost, whose names are inscribed one by one on the wall outside, you now are assuming a sacred task to tell the vital truth that needs to be told about the legacy that this scroll carries. The dark truth about the human propensity for evil, and its bright truth as well, Torah as the source of wisdom, the wisdom we need to live by and to bring sanity into our world. You are, in this act of rededication, accepting, I hope, the obligation of witnessing to the next generation. When the only survivors of the Holocaust will be scrolls like this, then it's going to be you and the kids who are here today who read those names so beautifully, and their children who will be able to tell the story. And I hope they will. And through the stories of the Jews of Dvor Kralova, the stories of the 6 million who are no more. This Torah summons us to be bearers of light in a world that has been considerably darkened by human cruelty in our time. That summons is what we have always meant by the obligation to help bring God's sovereignty into the world. Kabbalat ol malchut shamayim. Torah calls us to our highest potential, the highest potential that lives within the human heart. And I pray that we may all be worthy.
We also have posters in the community court which depict the story of the town of Devore Kralov, and in another sisterhood museum window, the layout of Auschwitz-Birkenau, where 90-odd of the 122 were killed. On this special occasion, I would like to introduce my good friend, Ruth Fine, for remarks. Ruth is chair of the Community Holocaust Museum in Massachusetts, as well as a past president of the Combined Jewish Philanthropies, the American Jewish Historical Society, and the Jewish Community Relations Council. Ruth, please.
Alan, I want to thank you for asking me to participate in this evening's program. I thought I would begin by saying something entirely different, and I didn't think I was going to thank you. But having listened to this wonderful, wonderful story of your Torah, I do so much appreciate being able to be here, and I know Rashi joins me in saying, this is a wonderful show, and it's great what you guys have done. Yesterday we had our major community-wide Holocaust Memorial Service in Faneuil Hall. In Faneuil Hall, the space which really is the symbol of American liberty and freedom. In Faneuil Hall, where in 1903, the then small community of Jews in Boston, maybe 25,000, had a mass protest meeting against the Kishinev pogroms and seeking help and aid and support from the American government. And so we go back every year to Faneuil Hall. Why is it so important for us to remember the Holocaust? Or is it really for us that it is so important? Is the dedication of the Torah that we are participating in tonight really for us? Who is it we really want to assure does not forget?
Temple Emmanuel is a synagogue where Jews with varying interests and varying levels of commitment can comfortably find their own place and their own communities within our broader family. We welcome and we encourage that diversity. But there's one thing that we all share, and that is our heritage. This newly dedicated wall of remembrance represents one unfortunate but one very important bond that unites us all and all Jews worldwide. As you walk through the front doors of our shul and into the Leventhal Sidman Community Court, you are greeted by two very significant symbols. The banners that you see overhead represent our diversity, while the prominently displayed Holocaust Torah and the new, beautifully designed Wall of Remembrance remind us of our common bond. These are two very important messages for all of our guests and consistent reminders to all of our members. I want to take a moment to publicly thank the entire committee who worked so hard to plan for tonight, but in particular, I want to thank Alan Edelstein for his